Well, welcome to the Holy Land and this biblical site of Kursi. This is the place where the demonic men lived. This is the place where Christ came over and cast the demons out of this one demonic man, it mentions. And then he went back to his people and spread the gospel among them. So we have right here a church that was built to commemorate this site. Then we have up on the hill, we're going to be hiking up there, are the caves where these demonic men live. Now, Scripture says that these demonic men were so powerful and had this legion of demons within them that no one could bind them. So they kind of had control of this area. They would hurt people. And then Jesus came over here, sailed over from Capernaum. In Mark, it singles out one particular case of this one demonic man, and Jesus heals him, and this legion of demon comes out of him. Then these demons plead with Jesus to let them go into this herd of pigs, and the herd of pigs then run down the mountain into the sea. And you can see all this right here. Well, welcome to this site of Kursi. Kursi is on the eastern shore of the Sea of Galilee, and this is the place where Jesus miraculously cast out a legion of demons from one demon-possessed man. And then there was another demon-possessed man as well that was healed, but they lived up in the caves right up here. And they said that they were so strong that the people passing by feared them. They tried to put them in chains, and they couldn't contain them. And so Jesus came over here and he cast a legion of demons out of one man. And you know how many a legion is? A legion is around 5,000. So he cast out a legion of demons from this one man, and afterward this demon-possessed man wanted to follow Jesus, but Jesus says, no, you go back and tell all of your people what great things the Lord has done for you. And then also, here is where the pigs ran down into the sea. So what we're seeing right here is the largest Byzantine monastery church that exists. Okay, it's huge. It's from the 5th century, and it was built here to commemorate this site that happened right here. So we're going to be looking a little bit about the location. Once again, it's on the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee, and this amazing event took place here. I'm so excited to share with you from the Bible what happened here in the story, because it's really much bigger than I think what we understand, because this demon-possessed man went into the area here and he did share his faith, and as a result, this area became a very strong Christian area in this side over here. Really, really amazing what happened. So we'll be exploring this area. We're going to be, for those that want, we'll be hiking up to the caves up there. There's some churches that have been built up there to commemorate that spot, because right up on the hill up there, we'll get a view of it a little bit better here in a moment, is where the demon-possessed men lived in caves. And it said that lived among the tombs. Okay? So this particular area was in the Decapolis. You know what a Decapolis is? The Decapolis was established by the Greeks, but then the Romans enforced and added on to it as well. But Decapolis means 10. So there were 10 huge Greek-Roman cities, and they were like city-states. But it was an area that was very Greek-Roman, Gentiles. It was considered an area that was unclean. The Jews wouldn't come over here. It's a very immoral area. These cities were large, they were immoral, and so the Jews wouldn't come over here. So right over here, just a mile or so, was the division line where the Decapolis started. So we're just right on the northern part of the Decapolis. And so the Jews wouldn't come over here, but Jesus did these things that were always amazing. And on the boat ride over, he calmed the sea. Then he comes over here, and these demon-possessed men come over to him, approach him, implore him not to cast them out, but let them go into the herd of pigs, and he does allow that. So then just down a ways is where they're going to run into the ocean. So absolutely amazing things that happened right here. And so we will be seeing in a moment, we'll be doing a Bible teaching, we'll be seeing this story unfold, and I just love this story. And tomorrow there's another story I love, and that's the story of Mary of Magdala. That is just such a beautiful story. This is such a beautiful story of what Christ did here. They're similar stories because here Jesus cast out a demon-possessed man who had a legion of demons living in him. Could you imagine what his life was like? Just a living hell. It says he would cry out. He would cut himself. He was just miserable. These demons just had control of him. How that happened, we don't know. Mary Magdalene had 7 demons living within her. And these people who were delivered from these demons, whoa, talk about a change. And so they just loved Christ, wanted to follow him. This demon-possessed man here, he wanted to follow Christ, but Christ says, no, you go back and tell everyone. And he did. He spread his message throughout the whole Decapolis area. And Christian history tells us that this area was a huge, strong representation of the Christian community. So when they would get together for the councils and meetings among the large Christian circles, a huge representation, strong one, would be from this area because of this man and what he did. And of course, Mary Magdalene, she was the first one that Christ appeared to. She was a very, very devoted follower. So very, very special to see this story unfold. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to kind of walk around and explore this a little bit. Okay, so once again, this is from about 400 to 500 AD, and so this is the period wherein churches are allowed to be built, okay? Because prior to that, Christianity is forbidden in the Roman Empire. You were persecuted for being a Christian. They had a multiplicity of false gods. That's why when Paul was in Athens preaching, he says, I see that you have a monument to this unknown God. Let me tell you about this unknown God. He's the one who created everything. And we're not far from him because through him we live and move and have our being. And so he talks to them about this. So Christianity was forbidden in the Roman Empire, but in 324 it's allowed because Constantine is the emperor. His mother becomes a Christian, and so now he allows Christianity to become a recognized religion, and then it will later become the main religion of the Roman Empire. This was a large church here, and it was also a monastery. And you can see some of the columns here. It's one of the most well-preserved, partly because these basalt rocks, and you can see as we were driving by, you remember we saw the raw ones, they were just round. But these here, these have been carved, right? That was a lot of work. They went to a lot of work to do this. But this stone is so hard that it's able to be preserved. So you can see the apse of the church, right? See the apse up there? So this is quite a large preserved Byzantine church. You can see that it had these mosaics, right? And so once again, what you're seeing is these churches marking these spots and venerating these areas where this happened. So this is the believed area then where the demon-possessed men would live. It says they lived among the tombs, and their home, I'm assuming, would be what? Be caves in the area here. That's where they're going to live, because these people don't have jobs. How they lived was probably difficult. They were, like I say, they were somewhat supernatural, so maybe they could chase down animals, maybe some of the pigs they would grab. I mean, it was just a brutal, ugly existence. But so once again, we have these churches that are venerating this. And one of the things I wanted to point out to you, see the river there, the draw? That kind of was the line of where the Decapolis began, okay? So on the north side of that is going to be more into the Jewish or Israeli area. And then from that line down, this is going to be the Decapolis area. Okay, well now we're going to do our Bible teaching of the site here. And as I mentioned, this is a really, really special story that we're going to unfold that I think you're going to find very, very touching. So on the way over from Capernaum, we were just at Capernaum, right? And we talked about a lot of the miracles that Christ had done over there. Well, he had just done a number of miracles, preached the parables of the kingdom. So now they're going to come over here. On their way over here, what happens? Jesus is sleeping in the boat and a storm comes up. And so now Jesus is going to calm the sea. Then they're going to arrive over here, right over here beside me. And when they arrive over here, then an amazing thing is going to happen. But let me just read to you the journey over first. It says in Matthew 8:23, and when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great storm. What kind of storm? Great storm. So this is not just a normal storm, not just a normal wind blowing on the Sea of Galilee. This is a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. We were over at Gennesaret this morning. We saw the replica of the Jesus boat. But this boat was probably bigger than that one because there were at least 12 disciples, if not more, that were on the boat, plus Jesus. So we had a minimum of 13. You have to have a pretty good sized boat to handle 13. So it's a pretty good sized boat, great storm, and it's being swamped with this water. But he was asleep, Jesus was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, "Save us, Lord, we are perishing." Now, interestingly, in the middle of this storm, Jesus is sleeping. So what does that say? Well, we could interpret that as maybe he knew what was happening and he doesn't have a problem with it. We could interpret that as well. In his humanity, he was deadbeat tired. He's tired. He's just sleepy, but he's asleep. And so they wake him up and say, "Save us." And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Oh, you of little faith." Oh, you of little faith. Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. So we have two contrasts. We go from a great storm to a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even winds and sea obey him?" So then he arrives over here, and he comes into the area, Scripture says, the Gadarenes. This is an immoral area. The Jews don't come over here. But he comes over here, and it says, when he came to the other side, so Capernaum, when he comes over to the other side here, to the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men met him, coming out of the tombs. so fierce that no one could pass that way. So this area was a major travel route right here. You're not going to be up on top of the mountain. You're going to be walking around the sea. This is how you're going to get around down here. But these demon-possessed men, they had control of this area so that everyone was afraid and they couldn't pass by. But they say, "What have you to do with us, O Son of God?" So these demon-possessed men knew exactly who Jesus was. It's the demon speaking. "Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Demons know what awaits them. They know Scripture better than we do, most of us. So in the account of the story we're going to focus on, Mark, the Gospel of Mark, focuses on one man. And so that's what we're going to focus on, because that's what the story really focuses on. So in Mark 5:1, it says, "They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes." So we have Gadarenes, Gerasenes, same area. "And when they stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs, a man with an unclean spirit." So Mark's going to focus on just the one guy. He has an unclean spirit. It says in Mark 5:3, "This man, he lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain." So they had tried to bind this guy so that they could have access along here. These demon-possessed men had control, and they were causing problems for travel here. So they tried to bind him. They bound him with chains, but that didn't work, and bound them also with shackles and chains. But he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. So has supernatural demonic powers is what he has. He's like a Samson in reverse. Samson in reverse. He has super demonic powers. The chains can't hold him. No person can hold him. He is just totally out of control. They can't do anything about it. But then it says here in verse 5, "Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones." So his life was just a living hell. How many friends do you think he had? You think he was married? Grandchildren? No, this man is just one miserable, lonely man that has no social life. His only other buddy is this other demon-possessed man, and his life is just a living hell. No joy. Every night and day, slept very little. He's just wandering the tombs, the mountains with stones, just cutting himself, because that's what demons do. They come only but to kill, hate, and destroy. How long he was in this state, we don't know for certain, okay? So then they have this encounter. So then in Mark 5:6, it says, "And when he saw Jesus from afar," so the boat lands over here, "from afar, and crying out with a loud voice, he said, 'What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me.' For he was saying to him, 'Come out of the man, you unclean spirit.'" So there was this communication between Jesus and this demon, demons within this man. And Jesus asked him, now this is now Jesus dialoguing with this demon in part. He asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Now, in the Roman army system, a legion was around 5,000. So this man, we don't know if it was exactly 5,000, but this man had a massive multitude of demons living within him. It would be bad enough to have one demon, but could you imagine this massive amount of demons? And like I say, his life was just a living hell. No friends, no family, just misery and pain and physical pain all the time, night and day. So in Mark 5:10, Jesus is now going to cast this legion of demons into pigs, which are going to run down into the sea. And it says, and he begged him earnestly, this would be the demon, do not send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. And they begged him, saying, send us into the pigs, let us enter them. So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and were drowned in the sea. So we know this happened in the area of the Decapolis because the Jews weren't pig farmers. Pigs were forbidden by the Jews. So these demons plead with Jesus, let us go into the pigs. Jesus gives them permission. Once again, Jesus had authority over every aspect of creation because he was God in the flesh. And he had authority over the whole demonic realm. And so he gives them permission. They go into the pigs and they run down into the steep bank, down into the sea, and they're all drowned. What's the response from that? Well, the demon-possessed man was healed, and the news spread rapidly. So the herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the country. And the people came to see what it was that had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had had the legion, sitting there, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. So apparently this demon-possessed man ran around semi-naked or naked. And apparently maybe one of the apostles or somebody gave him some clothes, but he's clothed, he's looking normal, and he's in his right mind. So they are afraid of what's happened because remember, they've done everything they can to try to deal with these demon-possessed men, shackle them, all those things. That doesn't work. And so now the pigs go down, so they're afraid of what's happened. And those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. And they began to beg Jesus to depart from their region. Well, that's interesting. I find that really quite puzzling. Jesus brought peace to the area. Why would they want him to leave? Well, apparently, they were just really afraid. But anyway, they begged him to leave. However, the demon-possessed man, he wants to follow Jesus. And wouldn't you? So in Mark 5:18 it says, as he was getting into the boat, that would be Jesus, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him, pleaded with him that he might be with him. This man wanted to be with Jesus, and we know why. He had delivered him. Now this man loves Jesus. He's helped him. What does Jesus say to him? Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled. So this man was not permitted to follow Jesus. Jesus said, no, you go and tell everyone what God has done for you. And everyone in the Decapolis, which was a massive populated area, these were large cities, they marveled at what God had done, what Jesus had done for this demon-possessed man. So, what are some faith lessons that we can take from this very area and this event that happened right here? Well, this demon-possessed man was in extreme bondage because of demons. When you read the New Testament, not only did Jesus cast out many demons, but the apostles cast out many demons. And then Paul in his missionary journey. So that you see the reality is the demonic world is real. The demonic world is real. Demons are real. Satan is real. And they do a lot more, I think, than what we might see. Okay? There's a lot more demonic activity than what I think we might know. And I think maybe today, with our society the way it is, our drug activity the way it is, the reality is that there's a lot more demonic people. We're just maybe attribute to maybe health problems or mental problems or whatever that are demon possessed. I think that's a real reality. So do we believe that demons are real? Yes. Now, should we fear the demonic realm? No, not in any way. The idea that, Jesus and Satan, or God and Satan, are kind of co-equal and they're kind of fighting it out, one gets, wins a little. No. Satan is a created being. The demons are created beings. With a snap, they're done. They're over. Jesus showed that he had authority over the demonic realm and over nature. He cast out the demons. He allowed them to go into the pigs, and they go down into the sea. So, once again, Jesus, with just a word, cast out thousands of demons from this man. So once again, Jesus has complete authority over the demonic realm and over all principalities and powers. Once again, why? Because he is God. Now, Jesus told this demon-possessed man to go and tell others. He didn't allow him to follow him, which seems kind of interesting, but he told him, no, you go and tell others the great things that God has done for you. History records that as a result of this man's obedience, a large community of believers was established in this area and had great influence on the early church for many centuries. Because the people saw this and they marveled. So, here's the real thing that I think is good for us to realize. Jesus told this newborn man, go and tell others what I have done for you. And that's what he did. The greatest evangelism tool we have is to tell others what God has done for us. Because no one can argue with your story. Your story is a real story. The Apostle Paul used his testimony in the book of Acts around 3 or 4 times. I was on the road to Damascus, and there appeared to me. So our story, our testimony, is one of our most powerful tools. Now, yes, we need to know the gospel so we can share the gospel, but your story, I believe, is a great lead-in to sharing that. So this is my humble counsel for you, is develop 2 lengths of your testimony. Get your testimony down. What has God done for you? Write your testimony down. How you got saved, what God has done in your life. Write your testimony down, then write it down in 2 ways, a short version and a longer version, depending on the environment that you are in and the time that you have. Okay? If you're on the airplane and somebody's really open to you, tell them your whole story. If you don't have a whole bunch of time, maybe you would tell them a shorter version of your story, but try to get a short outline of your testimony and a longer outline, but know your testimony. And we all have a testimony. Sometimes people who were raised in the church and have been basically good all their life think, I don't really have a testimony. We equate a person's testimony with, somebody coming out of this gory, horrific situation. No. Your testimony is what God has done for you. If you were raised in the church, then that's a testimony to God's ability to preserve you. God was so good to me, I didn't have to go through all of these things, okay? But anyway, your testimony is your testimony, and it's a powerful tool that you have to share the gospel. So use your testimony. That's what Jesus said to this man. Go and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you. That's what he did. I don't think that this demon-possessed man was a great theologian. I don't think he had been to Bible college. But the only thing he knew is this man named Jesus cast out all these demons and changed my life. And once again, no one can argue with a changed life. This is what I was, and this is what I am. And God has done this for me. So use your testimony. It's a very, very powerful tool that you have. So, really special. I like the story of what happened here. It's one of my favorite stories. And it's special to be here, to be in this very spot where this happened, and to just think once again the life of this demon-possessed man. Man, how terrible, how sad, how depressing the life that he had. But I would imagine after the demons were gone and he was saved, he probably just was running and jumping and I bet he had a joy mile deep. Well, thank you for your attentiveness and thank you for listening, and may God richly bless you.